Do you remember when I paid $1.25 American to have Enter Sandman be my ringtone?
I do.
Yeah, I regret it.
Dude.
9 days out of 10 days.
Okay.
And then you'll laugh when it goes off.
And
I'll be like, it's worth it.
No.
It's worth it.
No, I'll laugh and you'll go, what's so funny?
Because, like, I don't know why I do this, but I'll be on like an AirPod call. I'll have my ringer on.
Mm-hmm.
Motherfucker. The thing about having Enter Sandman as your ringtone is that it doesn't just go like doom da 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 dum. It plays 30 seconds.
Especially because that's not how Enter Sandman goes.
Yeah, and it just goes forever. And then say like someone texts me, you know, I'll be like doom da 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 dum, doom da da da, and then like I'll get another text and go doom da da doom da 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 doom da 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 dum.
That's
and roll out for 30 seconds.
I think the funniest way it could go.
Yeah, it's very funny.
For it to keep interrupting itself.
Yeah.
Also,
And usually I'm on the phone with my brother Donald complaining about it, and he's like, you can turn that part off. But the thing I don't like is, like, if I have it silenced and I'm on a call, and I'm away from my phone, then I don't even know that I got a text. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a rock and a hard place, like pick your poison type deal.
or you do what I do.
What do you do?
I have my phone constantly,
Yeah.
24 hours a day on Do Not Disturb.
Yeah.
So
You just never know when anybody
I just never know.
Yeah.
And also, if someone texted me, it's not that important. I'm not, like, I was thinking about it the other day. Chris, I'm damn near 30. I don't give a fuck about any text. No text message matters to me at all anymore.
Okay,
if you have something important to tell me, call me and then call me again because I'm on Do Not Disturb, which means you're going to go immediately to voicemail.
I got 3 things I want to talk about in the most respectful way possible.
Okay.
1, your sister.
Okay.
You mentioned go to her house and just being like, wow, yeah, I forgot that you were a mom. I'm not about any of this.
Uh-huh.
That's a respectful way to put that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Similar situation. I got a friend of mine that in a bit of a jam because they hooked up with an ex. They raw dog blasted inside, and then the ex was like, oh, yeah, stop taking birth control.
That sounds like a trap.
Yeah.
Man.
Nothing. I guess the third thing is I got another friend who...
That wasn't a story. Go on.
I got another friend who's going to go spend 2 days in a cabin with no cell service or electricity. But yeah, so I don't know. The baby thing is just wild. I've been thinking about it a lot. Like,
You just told me 2 beginnings to 2 different stories. Like, hey, here are 2 things that are going to pay off far in the future.
it's like one of those things where, like, I definitely want to have, like, a 30-year-old woman who's, like, a professor accepting an award be like, and I owed all to my dad, and, like, I can hang out with this lady that I'm like, wow, you used to be a baby. But I don't think I actually want, like, children are disgusting to me. Like, actually disgusting.
Okay.
Really disgusting. They have no concern for them being clean.
Yeah.
Actually at all. They literally don't even understand the concept of why that would be important.
Uh-huh.
And they're just nasty to me. They're nasty as fuck.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But, like, it's strange, because my nephew, he's 1 and a half, maybe, I think. Yeah, gross little guy, yeah.
Gross
he's
guy,
a baby,
yeah.
But
yeah.
I kind of just don't care. I just
Okay.
love him to death.
Great.
I don't want a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I don't envision myself wanting that in my lifetime.
Sure.
I could see how you would get over them being gross and how them being disgusting would be something you could put to the side.
Yeah, I'm saying on the outside looking in, you know. Who's got the song that's like, I'm on the outside, I'm looking in?
It's Metallica. It's a song right after Enter Sandman.
Eating Soup Alone is a podcast hosted by me, Christopher Crumley, and co-hosted by Nicholas Johnson. We try our best to ramble incoherently about a handful of movies at least once a week. You got anything else for Cold Open? I felt like that was a nice place to drop it, to do a needle drop. But if you've got something else, we can continue.
I was thinking about something the other day. And I'm sorry, this still isn't talking about either of the movies. But, I mean, you don't edit these anymore, so they can be as long as... Who cares?
Yeah.
Who... And this has... Yeah, this is unrelated to anything...
Oh, my God. Go ahead. Sorry.
Unrelated to anything we're talking about. Definitely could be something we could talk about in a future episode. Definitely something we for sure could have talked about in a past episode.
Okay. I'm just pulling up the synopses for these movies.
Okay. Christopher.
What is it?
It has been probably 10, 11 years since I've heard somebody who has the keyboard sounds on their phone on. Like, outside of a movie, I don't think I've heard that since week 2 of the iPhone being out.
You know what crazy to me also?
What?
I want to hang out with a friend of the show, Will Lorenz. It's I know people have it, but like it's just like all the time he's got the ding. His text goes off and it's just like ding, like the classic iPhone
That's
noise.
insane.
Like that's crazy every time.
There's an old man who's at my work sometimes.
Yeah.
And his ringtone is a text tone. So he gets a phone call and just goes, ba-deep, 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 ba-deep. It's, I want to explode every time it happens.
Anyways, we're going to talk about something on the podcast before I started making a bunch of phone noise.
I was going to say, who's the best X-Man? That's what I was going to get at. Because I was thinking about it the other day. I overheard a conversation where somebody said, oh, Cyclops is my favorite X-Men. And I wasn't part of that conversation, so I didn't say it. But I was like, are you a cop? And
it's
I
like
was
saying
like,
Leonardo's your favorite Ninja Turtle. Come
exactly. So I was thinking about it. The best X-Man has to be interesting, but also look sick as hell.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the difficult things about the X-Men, I feel like, is like Wolverine. Very fleshed out, a lot of lore, you know, with the exoskeleton and the war and being immortal already, yada, yada, yada.
So cool. So cool.
Most other X-Men, it's like, she's called Storm because she makes it rain. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's kind of like not the same tier, you know, like, he's Iceman because he makes things cold. I know they've made him gay recently, but still, like, it's just all he does is make things cold.
Yeah,
you know?
like, it's so strange that Wolverine has 11 different things that make him interesting.
Yeah. Canadian, wild,
awesome,
short king.
Love it.
The
Harry.
OG short king.
Absolutely. Rides a motorcycle.
Sure. Dangerous. But not for him.
Yeah, exactly. I was talking to somebody the other day about getting a motorcycle.
Yeah.
Because I want a motorcycle real bad, Chris.
Okay, all right.
But I always hear, it's the old adage people say about being on a motorcycle. They don't tell you what to do if you crash. They tell you what to do when you crash your motorcycle. Because 100% you are going to crash that motorcycle.
Yeah.
And that's so scary to me.
It's very scary.
How cool would I look on a motorcycle?
Don't know.
You can't picture it?
I also...
Don't wanna?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe. I'm not a big motorcycle guy.
Okay.
It's not my bag.
I saw 2 different motorcycles today.
Yeah.
On my way home from work. One was a guy with like the big... It was like a black helmet with a black visor, so it was just like the full head thing.
Yeah.
And he was wearing a suit, which I've never seen before.
Yeah.
And I out loud to myself in my car went, so sick.
Yeah.
I was like, this is the sickest thing I've ever seen.
It seems like you'd see it in like an Asian movie where like that guy's part of like an Asian mob.
Yeah.
You know?
But it was a blue suit with like a light blue shirt underneath, so he looked like a lawyer.
Oh yeah, so lawyer's late.
He didn't look like an assassin. He looked like a lawyer.
Okay.
Which was cooler to me.
Sure. More knowledgeable.
Yeah, it looked like, instead of what you said, it looks like in a movie where, that lawyer's late to something and he runs out of whatever building he was in and someone is parking a motorcycle. He goes, I'm so sorry, I'll bring it back. And the motorcycle I saw was a guy with a motorcycle helmet on with the visor, but it had the Captain America shield painted on both sides of it.
Okay.
And then also his like motorcycle, like whatever proof jacket that they wear. Crash proof jacket looked like Captain America's costume. But like the subtle one where it's just like a navy blue with like a silver star and stripe around it. It's just the lamest thing I've ever seen. So I saw the coolest person. Yeah, I saw the coolest person I've ever seen on a motorcycle, and then the lamest person I've ever seen on a motorcycle within 30 minutes.
There's a car that rolls around here that has like a full blown, like ensemble cast airbrush Marvel Avenger.
Really?
Every character on it, yeah. But we watched 2 movies this week. We didn't spend all week just looking at people who drive different types of vehicles.
So it's Beast. He's the coolest X-Men. Go on.
Is it really? Because he's smart and also a savage?
Yeah, just off the top of my head.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, who sucks? Gambit. Sorry, go on. We watched 2 movies.
You're not into the Cajun thing?
It's got.
Or is it gambling?
It's both.
Both. Rogue is fun.
We can talk about the movies if you want.
I like Rogue.
Yeah,
and
but people die when she touches them. That sucks. That is
Yeah,
very interesting.
that makes it very interesting. Yeah, it's very tragic.
But how cool does she look?
Very cool. She got that stripe in her hair,
Yeah,
and then
but
I like the green and the yellow with the green or the brown bomber jacket.
I just hate the green and the yellow.
Really
Yeah.
interesting.
If it was blue like the rest of the X-Men and she matched, I'd be into that. Anyway.
And then there's also one other guy that I thought was interesting, but we'll leave it with Rogue. Rogue's my pick.
What about Nightcrawler?
That's what I was gonna pick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's either Nightcrawler or Beast for me.
Is he usually doing like the religious thing in the movies, or is that a Zac
I believe so.
Efron thing? Who's that guy that tiddles kids?
Zac Efron.
What's his name? He does movies.
He was in High School Musical. Zac
He did
Efron.
the Untouchables or whatever. What
Yeah,
the
Bryan
fuck was his
Singer.
thing? Yeah. What was his shit? That movie he made? Bryan Singer made.
Usual Suspects.
Yeah. Good twist. Dog shit movie.
It's a good twist unless, you know of Kevin Spacey. Because like I started that movie, I was like,
He's
oh,
the bad guy.
it's Kevin
Yeah,
Spacey.
yeah.
And then I stopped watching it, and
Yeah.
then later someone ruined the twist for me. I'm like, yeah, I know.
But that's what makes him a good director. He knew that Kevin Spacey can act. That's all it takes to be a good director.
I guess.
Yeah. Well, up until 2016 or something. When everybody found out, whenever that cat got out of that bag.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for both of them.
Yeah. Anyways, we watched a movie called The Fly. Came out in like 1986. It's a remake of a movie called The Fly, but this time it's directed and co-written by David Cronenberg. Hero of the show, and I'd like to think big fan of the show.
Oh, I have
to
my
think.
sources that
Yeah.
he oh my god, he was so excited when we talked about Jason X. It was so mad that we just went straight past that. But we'll call it his cameo in this one. He's delivering the gross fly baby.
That is true. So this is a movie that I've been meaning to watch for a long time. I've seen the original The Fly. I'm a big fan of horror films of all eras, from the silent into the golden age into the 50s stuff. 50s stuff, interesting. They started getting a little more into science gone wrong. The Fly tradition is, it's very traditional, like science gone wrong movie. It's like a fun kind of kitschy, like, I'm half fly, but if we can catch the fly and put it back in the transporter, I'll become a wholly just man, and he'll be just a fly. And so you spend the whole movie with him and his wife, like, chasing the fly around, trying to catch the fly. It's very simple. It's almost like, literally, like that Breaking Bad episode kind of a thing. Like,
It's exactly that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a very, like, contained, kind of like bottleneck episode movie type deal. And I enjoyed it for what it was. Was it one of my favorites? No, but I do, anytime I watch something from the 50s and it's got that kind of a vibe, I usually use that as my touchstone for like, oh yeah, it's kind of got like a 50s sci-fi fly thing about it. I don't know where all these burpees are coming from. I'm like a baby. I
It's
need
on your
mommy to
tummy.
come pat me on my back.
I
What's
wa-
your history?
I watched half watched.
Oh, well, yeah, I should mention that I watched The Fly 2 times now in the last month, but anyways, go ahead. The new one, the remake.
Yeah.
The newer one, the remake.
I was like half paying attention to the original Fly while you were watching it, and it has the thing that I get the most out of those era of horror movies.
Yeah.
Are like, yeah, this is kitschy and it's a little cheesy, and I can have fun with that. But the thing that gets me the most is every time I watch one of these movies, I go, "That's the sickest shit I've ever seen."
Yeah.
Like, it just looks so good and fun
Yeah.
and cool. Like, just
Yeah.
him walking around with the cape drape over his head and his fly arm
Yeah.
just the entire time, and then when he takes it off and
Yeah.
it's just a guy with a big rubber fly head, I'm like, doesn't matter, this looks awesome.
Yeah,
looks
it's perfect.
great.
It's one of those things where, like, almost like it's so bare bones and basic that it's just perfect. It's
Yeah.
like, like you can't touch it because it is exactly what you thought when you
Yeah.
said a man's gonna turn into a fly.
Exactly, yeah.
Not to say that there isn't something to be said for, like, when you get gross and super creative like a Cronenberg.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that there is still going to be something to be said for, like, you just did it. You did the thing. I said fly man, and you put a fly's head on a man's body.
Awesome, love it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I had never seen the original. The original or the remake, and then yeah, you watched the original, and then seemingly had no huge interest to watch the remake, or like huge drive to watch it.
No,
and
I
that,
never do with remakes.
yeah, that was a very strange to me, because I was like,
Yeah.
because it's like The Thing.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody loves the Thing. They know about the Thing from another planet or whatever.
Yeah.
They know about the original Fly, but these are the, I'm sure there are others. I just can't think of them right now. These are the 2 remakes that are like, yeah, people care about these more than the original. So, yeah, I was excited that you watched it.
Yeah.
Even though I had never seen it, I had no real stake in it. But I was like, oh, cool. I'm glad I want Chris to see this gross little movie.
Yeah.
And then we watched it again the other day.
What do you have in your hands there?
Mail time.
Oh, that's a while.
For the first time in years, we got mail again.
Feels like it hasn't happened in a while. The Fly. Brundlefly sure made me cry. He for sure eats ass. I think Stuart Little's mom. 7 out of 10.
You know what I like about that one? I think it might be a haiku.
That's interesting. What is it, like 575 or something like that? Or I don't know what a haiku is. Who knows?
Actually, no. Yes, it's 575.
But I think also like that's like,
and that's backwards. I think that's 757. So it's.
But
a
also you
reverse
should
haiku.
know that apparently the only thing that defines a haiku is 3 lines.
Really?
Yeah. That's mainly it. That's like a weird thing that like is kind of like generally accepted, the 575 thing, but it's not a requirement. That's just a popular way to write a haiku. So I guess to speak to my not having a big interest, I guess like it's one of those things where I don't know. I just thought like not to disrespect Mr. Cronenberg. I have lots of respect for Mr. Cronenberg. But I was just thinking like, yeah, I heard enough about The Fly. Man gets gross. I get it. And then a friend of the show that we haven't talked about on the show yet, my friend Drew, watched The Fly, and Drew is not as big of like a nerd or like well versed in like movies or as we might be, and seemed to like it a lot. And I was like, okay, all right, if it were, because for context, I guess I should say, and no disrespect to Mr. Drew, when someone's not like immersed in like movie whatever, and they can just pick up a movie from 1986 that's by David Cronenberg about a person being turned into a fly or whatever, like it's like one of those things where it's like, okay, so if this works on just like a guy, there's probably something to this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's what I was.
Yeah.
That was my big thing with. Yeah. Like, yeah, this is like the Cronenberg movie.
Yeah.
Like this is the one that everybody knows.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was not as gross as I thought it would be.
Oh.
Like I don't remember a lot of Videodrome.
Yeah.
But I remember it's gross in a different way that this is.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of just talking in a circle here.
Sure.
I don't really have a point to land on.
That's fine. I like Videodrome a lot.
I think the first like exposure I had to this was just somewhere online. I saw somebody post like the final like transformation, like when his body starts falling off and like the actual fly from the end comes out.
Sure.
And I was like, that's the worst thing I've ever seen. Like not in like, oh, that looks bad, but in like that looks
horrifying,
too good. And it's
I do think this movie looks really good. I think it looks, in my opinion, a bit better than The Thing, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, because I think The Thing looks really good.
Sure.
It looks amazing. I mean, The Thing is 10 out of 10, but there are moments, like, I think toward the end where, like, there's some stop motion and stuff like that looks not super, but everything in this looks great. Mm-hmm. And arguably, it's a much smaller thing than The Thing is.
Yeah.
So there's less, you just have to make one gross guy instead of a gross thing that can be a bunch of guys.
Yeah, but even just down to, like, I think the fly's movement at the end is so good that, like, I buy it as a creature, just personally.
I think I get it. It's a little,
the movement's good.
It's a little puppety to me, if I
That's
remember
how I feel
correctly.
about the Thing stuff. I feel like the Thing is like really puppety, but I was like surprised with this fly. Because I feel like he moved pretty well. But anyways,
kudos to Jeff Goldblum in this movie.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever seen Jeff Goldblum not play Jeff Goldblum in a movie before.
Yeah, I think he does a really good job of acting. This kind of mild mannered, meek, but very sharp.
Yeah, I didn't. I thought it would be strange because I don't know if I could buy Jeff Goldblum as a scientist that wears the same outfit every single day.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, watch this. He just it's toned down a little bit, but just the Jeff Goldblum cadence if he brings it back a little bit, it's like, oh, this is a
Jurassic Park man.
guy who's kind of on the spectrum,
Oh,
who's
okay.
like a genius. Like I absolutely buy this. And I like that he gets to show off that he can play piano a little bit in the beginning. Gina Davis is great as always. Super fucked up that this letter called her Stuart Little's mom, because she's so much more than that.
Yeah, she's also in Beetlejuice.
She's also in A League of Their Own. Do you want to just go on like a Gina Davis tear?
Yeah,
Do you
sure.
want to do A League of Their Own and Beetlejuice? No.
Sure. Is that League of Their Own? Is that with Tom Hanks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And someone else. I can't think of who the
Sure.
third big name is. And then the third character in this movie is ex-boyfriend.
Yep.
I don't know his name. Don't know that actor. I'm sorry to this man.
Sure. Sorry.
I love... First thing that really caught me
Okay.
is that this movie starts in what seems like the middle of a scene.
Yeah.
Like they're having
Right.
a conversation that
Yeah.
has already been going on for like
Yes.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's straight. I'm like, oh, that's wonderful. You just immediately, the way they're talking to each other, it's like, I know exactly how this started and exactly what's happening in this scene.
Yeah.
It's perfect. You don't have to waste any time on
Yeah.
him being like, oh, I'm a scientist who has to go to this party, and her being like, oh, I'm a reporter that has to go talk to people at this party. You just know that that's what's happening from the halfway through this conversation that the two of them are having.
Yeah, I feel like it's a pretty lean movie.
Oh yeah, it moves at a clip, and it's just a tight little movie, except for him going to get the other girl. That seemed a little like, I felt like a lot of movie happens in this movie, and it's not even that long.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that part has a bit of that like nocturnal, weird, out of place Twin Peaksy vibe to me thing, where it's like, like how like the movie will just or the show will play out like just normal teenage soap opera, then suddenly it's nighttime, so now something weird's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Just like in terms of not even weird like the way that people usually mean the David Lynch stuff, where it's like, a telephone pole's gonna start talking backwards or something. I'm just saying that like a character's gonna like go into a room and be like, hey, that's my girl. And like snap at him for a little while and be like, that kind of a thing. Like just people are gonna act a little odd. But anyways, one of the most interesting things about The Fly is how much more they do, what they add to The Fly. I like, and I think most people like when a remake is not just, the original is such a classic that like we knew there was no way we were gonna top it, so we were like, let's just grab a couple of those classic scenes or whatever, and like just try to kind of almost recapture the magic, basically. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
Almost like the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. When people see it, they're like, dude, it was just like the original, I guess, but with 2009 shitty acting and 2009 shitty special, that kind of a thing.
Yeah, like I think this and The Thing.
Yeah.
I would believe if you told me John Carpenter didn't see the original and Cronenberg didn't see the original. Like
Yeah.
someone just gave them the log line of
Yeah.
a guy gets stuck in a teleporter
Sure.
with a fly and slowly turns into
Yeah.
a fly. Go.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's great.
And honestly, in my opinion, like that would be even a more interesting way to take remakes in general. Personally,
Yeah,
like,
I think...
imagine if you gave the Nightmare on Elm Street to a director who had never seen it and a writer who had never seen it, and you just gave them like, okay, this is a movie about a person who murders people in their sleep. That's the only place he can kill them. He exists in some sort of dream realm, and he can kill people while people are dreaming.
Yeah.
That'd be way more interesting probably than what we got in 2009.
Yeah, absolutely. But like also, obviously that would be hard because who doesn't know what Freddy Krueger looks and sounds like? And I think it should be done like The Thing and The Fly did. If you're going to make a remake of a movie that's fine.
Yeah.
Like an older movie that people would maybe know, but like, or even like a bad movie that didn't really work. Like, you don't have to remake RoboCop. We got RoboCop the first time. The Fly, the original one, it's a fine movie. The original Thing, it's a fine movie. But yeah, bring it up, modernize it, and make it, like we're saying, 100%, not 90% different.
Yeah.
Give it to an auteur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, they do add quite a bit. Just for example, in the original Fly, he's a married man running around with his wife the whole time. You make this young Jeff Goldblum a bachelor. He's talking to this reporter. It's obvious they have a rapport. He invites her back to the laboratory, check out what he's got going on. He basically tells her, I'm working on teleportation. She doesn't buy it. He teleports her little pantyhose or whatever. Yada, yada, yada.
He shows her the thing, and she's like, oh, what? You made a fancy telephone booth?
Yeah. Designer telephone booth.
Yeah, and I was thinking about it. I was like, telephone, teleport, I wonder what the etymology is there.
Yeah.
So I looked it up while we were watching it, so I missed a good chunk of this movie.
Sure.
I'm kidding. It was maybe like 10 minutes. I was looking up the etymology of the word telephone.
Yeah.
And tele means like to or at a great distance, and phone is just like an audio device.
Sure.
And I was like, okay, cool, that makes sense, like a megaphone, and yeah, okay, cool, I got that. And then I put my phone down, and the word teleportation came up, and I was like, well, fuck, what does portation mean? And I was like, I can't do it, and I just kept my phone away.
Yeah.
So that's still a mystery to me.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
There's still magic in this world.
On that topic, I just found out that quarantine is kind of like a, I don't know how far removed, but the original, the origin of it is kind of like the Italian words for like 40 and days, because that's how long they would quarantine people as they're coming into port during the plague. Which makes sense, because I know in French, like 14 is like probably 40. I think it's like 4 is like cat, right?
Okay.
So quarantine, cat, right? Like, they're just very close regionally. So Italian and French sound kind of similar sometimes with their words, and I could see just from my brief knowledge of French, like that etymology, like tracking. I guess
I do. That's my favorite type of etymology, where it's just like, this is just something people have been fucking up for millennia, and so now it sounds like this.
Yeah. But immediately, I just love Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis, and I think they've got a great back and forth. She pitches to her editor, like, hey, this guy, he's got this situation. Jeff Goldblum, not a fan of this. Editor, who we don't know at this point, is her jealous ex-boyfriend, is like, it's an old party trick. He's trying to bang you broad. And then
this guy
sucks. Yeah. Then Jeff shows up, and the boss is like, why don't I leave you two kids alone together? Sayonara, and like leaves. And then they go get the hamburger. Gina and Jeff.
Can't remember what it is about it. I don't know. Maybe you can help me. Maybe you can remember. But the transition from him saying cheeseburger to them being in that diner.
Yeah.
There's just something about how it switches between shots that I remember really liking.
Yeah.
But I can't remember why.
It might be as simple as flipping them.
It could be.
I remember.
Like, I remember the first shot of the diner when you first see it, and like they're in the booth.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like overhead, but I can't remember what the shot is right before that.
Anyway. But I do know that basically he says, like, hey, don't report on this. It's not ready. Do a book. You hang out. You can videotape me. You can interview me. Yada, yada, yada.
Maybe
Great.
we can smooch.
I want to back up for a second. And one of the things that I want to mention liking a lot is, like, there's just so much, like, little, like, just fleshy details in this thing. You can really sink your teeth into. I love that, like, when she's like, wow, are you just like the smartest guy who's ever lived? And he's like, no, I'm more of like an ideas man. He's like, yeah, I'm like an engineer or whatever. But he's like, I don't know how a lot of these pieces work. I just know the pieces that I need, and I outsource that to like my scientist like friends or whatever, and I have them send me all these pieces and I assemble it. And that's just great. And then he gives that whole spiel about how he's like, I work for this company, but they don't know what I'm building. All they know is that I'm cheap, so they keep sending me money because I don't cost that much, and whatever I end up producing, they're gonna own anyway, so they don't care. But yeah, so anyways, they start hanging out. I think he turns a baboon inside out trying to teleport it. And then I like this scene where she sets up the camera and she's like, come on, tell the world, something or whatever, like what you're thinking right now. And he just won't, he's all in his head or whatever. And he's basically just like, I must have fucked this up. And she's like, how? And he's like, I don't know. Computers are dumb. They only know what you tell them. I must not know enough about the flesh, whatever. And then Gina Davis goes, I will teach you a thing or two about the flesh. And they fuck.
Which is so strange, because nothing about this man up until this point has made me think suitable bachelor.
My only thing is after the baboon thing, that's when you want to fuck?
You just saw an inside-out baboon, and for some reason Gina Davis saw that and was like, talk about the flesh.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, the ex-boyfriend, to go back to him for just a beat, yeah, like, this guy sucks, and that's the point of him, is every time you see him up until, like, things start to get going at the end, he just sucks.
Yeah.
Like, she comes home, he's in her house taking a shower, and she's like, what the fuck are you doing here? He's like, I was feeling a little scummy, so I decided to stop by and take a shower. And she's like, hey, we broke up, you can't just be coming into my apartment to take a shower.
She's like, give me the key back. He's like, I think I'll keep it for old time's sake.
Yeah, just awful. And he's just like, just the worst, like, how, just the like, no way in a million years would what you were doing be a way to get you back in.
Yeah.
And I'm just disgusted by him the entire time and then at the end when she comes in, she's like, help, my boyfriend's turned himself into a fly. I'm like, buddy, you are back in. Like, that's the, like, it's like, oh man, I cannot conceive of a way that this scumbag would be able to get back with Gina Davis. And then he goes and turns himself into a brundlefly. It's like, homie, you're good. You're good. You're there.
Yeah. Suddenly it pays off to be second place. So basically,
poor Gina. Unfortunately, Gina Davis doesn't know a third guy.
Yeah. So the editor is basically like, all right, you know what? I did some research. You got a real story here. I'm gonna run it. That happens. Whatever. They're very close to trying to teleport some people. He teleports a steak. The false steak tastes synthetic. Whatever. She leaves. Brundlefly gets jealous. He's drunk, talking to the baboon, decides to teleport himself alone. Doesn't notice the fly in the teleporter. Also doesn't notice for a little while that he's, part fly. Love this stretch also, because it seems like everything's all right. Not only does it seem like everything's all right, it seems like things are going great. He goes through his Tobey Maguire arc.
He's buff now. He's webbing up
Spider-Man
things.
one. Yeah. Eating so much sugar.
Flies growing out of his back.
Yeah, and he's just pouring sugar into that coffee, just thinking like, it's an absolute symbiosis. I mean, the metamorphosis. I mean, the absolute pinnacle of a man becoming exactly what he always wanted to be. I mean, I never even thought about what I might want to be, but now it's astronomical. Honestly, it's waiter, can I get another? Like that kind of thing. Great, a lot of fun.
Great.
And then he's like, hey, I want to fuck for like 6 hours. And she's like, I've got 5 in me max. We got to stop now because it's been 5. And he's like, I'm going to go find someone who can fuck for more because I need to keep fucking. And so he goes down to the bar. And this, again, is such an out-of-pocket scene. It's black as night, and he's wearing like a leather jacket with no shirt, and it's a weird bar, and the girl and the guys and they're arm wrestling. And so, like, again, like, it's Twin Peaksy. Like, 2 dudes are arm wrestling in a bar. Like, it's such
that happens in Twin Peaks.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like such a 1950s idea of like what tough bar is, like. You're in the writer's room and you're like, yeah, okay, so he goes into a tough bar with men inside of it, like 2 big burly men, and they're arm wrestling is what they're doing while a girl watches on, and she says, tonight I like Ricky, so I hope he wins. Like, it's just, it sounds like David Lynch wrote it.
You can just picture a bespectacled 80s Cronenberg with a bunch of other bespectacled 80s men going, what do tough guys do at bars?
Yeah. So anyways, he's like, $100 and a girl says I can beat either of you guys in an arm wrestle. So he snaps someone's bones.
And she's like, whoa, hey, I didn't agree to this. I'm not going to come with you. And he goes, oh, watch this, and breaks the dude's arm in half. And she goes, yeah, I'm coming with you.
Super pushy, pulls her all the way home. She's like, can we go to a couple bars first? And presumably they do because it's nighttime by the time they get home, but then they still F. And he's just looking gross already.
She's like, oh, fuck, you got so many stairs, dude. You don't have an elevator? And he just picks her up and just sprints her up all these stairs.
Wish I was in that kind of shape. And then Gina Davis shows up and she's like, hey, you're sick. Those
he
hairs.
teleports himself again, which I think is very interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that just doesn't
down.
come up and nothing happens there. He just teleports and goes, all right, get in. And she's like, I'm not fucking doing that.
Yeah, because he thought that it was purifying him, it was making him stronger, that kind of stuff. And he keeps trying to get women to do it too. And these women are like, no, I don't think it's a good idea to do this.
Yeah.
But he's just fanatical at this point or whatever.
And he's just like very slowly, like, it looks like he just like has acne maybe.
Yeah.
Like, that started like when him and Gina Davis should figure out what her character's name is, but we won't.
I mean, what's his name? It's Brundle, but what's the first? Seth Brundle, yeah.
Yeah, the only reason I remember that is because I'm like, I don't buy that Jeff Goldblum is a Seth. Anyway, yeah, when they are banging for 12 hours, that's when I'm like, oh yeah, this guy looks starting to look gross.
Yeah, pretty gross. And it progresses rapidly. The next time she sees him, he's fucking disgusting. His ear falls off, stuff like that, and he's like, it's manifesting as some kind of bizarre cancer. That thing about the fly being in there.
I do love the turn. It happens before that, but yeah, it happens when that other girl leaves because Gina Davis showed up.
Yeah.
Gina Davis is like, dude, you are fucked up. Something is wrong. And he's like,
Yeah.
you have no idea what you're talking
jealous.
about. I'm the smart science man who can do backflips now.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of my apartment. And she's like, fine, whatever. And she
And
leaves.
it's like a week later or something. He calls and,
And-
he's like, "Oh, I need you."
I think it's that night he goes into his
Oh,
bathroom
yeah.
and his fingernails
Fingernails
start
are coming
coming off.
Oh yeah, and he's like,
And-
am I dying?
And
Is
he,
that what this is? Am I dying?
you can like almost immediately see the switch
Yeah.
in him where he's like,
Yeah.
oh, Gina Davis is correct.
Yeah.
Something's going on. And yeah, it
That's
takes
a good
him-
thing to mention. Yeah, I do like the character, the way that they've plotted that out, where like you like Jeff Goldblum, then it starts going to his head, a la Spider-Man 3, and you don't like him anymore. You hit rock bottom with that when it comes to him fucking another lady, even though he's supposedly in love, and then you start the trajectory up once he.
Yeah, I do love when that switch comes and he's just like, oh, she's right. It's not like he doesn't really go, and I don't know if it's because he's turning into a crazy fly man still or like, well, yeah, it's because he's turning into a crazy fly man still because obviously it's affecting his brain, but he doesn't go, oh God, she was right. I gotta fix this. He goes, oh, she was right. Something went wrong. Leaning into it, baby. Let's see what being a fly man is all about.
Yeah.
And then by the end of it, he's like, maybe everybody should be flymen.
Yeah. Like I said, he's like, oh, it's manifesting itself as a bizarre form of cancer. She comes and sees him at his request. And then, very sad, such a concerning thing when like the ear falls off, she hugs him, and then he just like whimpers, "Help me out" to her like 3 different times. And again, it'd be the scariest thing for like the most capable and smart person you know, to just be asking you for help. You know what I'm saying?
And also, that's the most unbelievable part of this movie for me.
Okay.
And I know he turns into a man fly at the end.
Uh-huh.
But it's this scene specifically. I don't think about the people I love the most in this world.
Uh-huh.
If I saw them covered in goop and then show me that they have to throw up on their food to eat it, and then do that, and then their ear falls out.
He doesn't know that yet. He throws up just involuntarily. He's like, oh,
okay, well, yeah.
sorry.
But even besides the goop he just threw up on himself, he is still just kind of covered in goop.
Yeah.
And then the ear falls off and goop comes out.
Yeah.
And then she hugs him.
Yeah.
No one's hugging that goopy guy.
That's true.
No one's hugging goopy guy.
But him throwing up is another example of something I love in this movie where, like, you know, he does that thing in the beginning where he says, I wear the same suit every day. And then you see Gina Davis shopping. And then every scene after that, he's wearing different things. Like, he's got, like, a different shirt on rather than the one he wears every day. He's wearing, like, her jacket rather than the jacket he wears every day. And so, so he involuntarily is throwing up in that scene. And then later when he's doing well and he's, like, crawling on the walls and stuff like that, and they shoot the little video, he's like, for a while, I thought I couldn't eat. It was very painful. But then I realized I eat the way a fly eats. I throw up on it to digest it outside of my body, and then I slurp up the whatever. So he's already doing that, but he doesn't understand how to feed himself, which is probably why he's so weak and doesn't feel good. On top of the metamorphosis into a fucking fly. But you know what I'm saying? Like, he doesn't actually comprehend what his body is yet. And so that's just a nice detail that he's already throwing up, but he doesn't understand why. He thinks it's just because he's dying, right? Yeah.
And yeah, his teeth are getting pointy, I think. Yeah.
Eventually they fall out entirely or something. I don't know.
He's crawling on the walls and stuff. You're like, look how fucking sick this is.
Then the B plot equally is horrific. Gina Davis finds out that she's pregnant with Brundlefly Jr.
Yeah.
And she just runs around trying to get an abortion. She has a nightmare that she is getting an abortion performed, but the thing's already a fully formed larva. Yeah, just a nightmare. And then Brundlefly this whole time has been devising a way to, like, perhaps fix himself, and it's continually sad. It's like the computer stops recognizing his voice because it's changed his enough. But basically, he realizes that what he needs to do is he needs to because he's already established almost immediately, like, once he finds out the fly thing, that, like, it's not necessarily a teleporter so much as it is a gene splicer. So I add in a third tripod, right, or whatever they're called, or telepod. Put 2 people, because I need at least 2 people into this one and me into this one, and then I'll basically merge with them, and that'll be enough to purify my DNA, and I'll become normal again.
Yeah, no, I think it's just Gina Davis. He just needs one other person, correct?
No, 2 people.
Really?
Which is why it works out perfectly that she's got a baby.
Does it?
Yeah, it's got to be 2 people. He's got to be at least two other specimens.
Gotcha. I thought he was just like, oh, cool, the more the merrier.
No, it's got to be. Well, I mean, I don't know if the baby thing, because the baby could be a fly. I mean, it was just my head. My first thing was like, oh, he needs 2 people, and she's pregnant, so that works out.
I do love his little speech, not speech, but little, like, diagnosis of, like, yeah, no, it's a gene splicer, and it took Brundle and the fly,
Yeah,
and created me. And
Yeah.
his little talk about like, oh no, I'm not
Yeah.
Seth Brundle.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm whatever happened there. I'm Brundlefly.
Yeah.
And so I'm just whatever's left of him. And that baby you got inside of you.
Oh yeah,
That's the last of Seth
yeah,
Brundle.
yeah. When he shows
That's
up and he's
actually
like,
Seth
"Please
Brundle.
don't kill me."
Yeah.
You know, basically, yeah, because he's like, "That's the last bit of me," or whatever. And yeah, so just before he finds out that she's pregnant, when she actually comes to tell him, she can't muster it up, because he gives that long speech, which I love, about the whole like, like, you ever heard of an insect politician? So there hasn't been one, like, I'd like to be the first one because insects are cold and they don't think about people or whatever. They just do what has to be done. And then he literally tells her, he's like, "Get out of here or I will hurt you."
Yeah.
And I think that's because already I think he knows that he has to splice.
Yeah,
And she'd be the easiest one. She's the one that comes to see him.
Yeah.
Well,
I didn't get that. Oh man, I mean, you're probably right, but no, I didn't get that until much later.
okay.
Like when he said, "You should go, or I'll probably hurt you." I took that as him being like, "I know what's happening, and I'm turning into crazy fly monster, and pretty soon I'll be a crazy fly monster who can't really control himself.
Okay.
And I'll just be a fly,
Yeah,
and I'll probably
fair.
end up hurting you."
Fair.
And then I thought, again, I could be wrong. I saw this movie 2 weeks ago. When he's perched like a gargoyle on top of his roof for some reason, then he hears her
And he
go,
hears that she's
"Let's
pregnant."
get going on this abortion," and
yeah.
then he busts through the glass like a Batman.
Yeah. Great.
And then takes her. He's just like, "Oh, I'll put you guys in the gene splicer. That's what'll happen."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff though. I like because that's when he grabs her, and it's like after he's grabbed her, where he's like, "Don't do this."
Yeah.
But I do like that they go classic old school. Beauty and the Beast, Dr. Caligari, King Kong, just a monster, a carry lady. Back to lab, and then Man Who Sucks shows up. He's got a gun. Brundlefly throws up on his hand and on his leg and digests him. It's crazy. They're in the telepods, and one hand man shoots the thing so Gina Davis doesn't get spliced, and then the fly busts halfway out, so he splices with half the telepod and himself.
Yeah.
And this is genuinely, truly the tragic thing that I can't believe I missed in the first one or whatever, where she's like, she wants to shoot him as he's crawling out this like man-beast machine, and she can't bring herself to do it because she just loves Seth Brundle so much. And then he grabs the gun with his like weird insect hand and puts it against his own head. Because at that point, dude, fucking put me down, bro. Put me down.
Yeah, like I can't.
Put me down.
Chris,
It's tragic, horribly tragic.
if you came out of a teleportation pod looking like that half fly monster, half teleporting man, half teleportation thing, for sure I would shoot you.
Yeah.
But also, 10 minutes before that, when all of your human comes off and there's a gross fly underneath there,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Chris, I'm shooting you then.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's all right.
The callback. But yeah, I can't. Again, it's just the most unbelievable part of this movie to me is that, like, hey, great job, you showed me the grossest thing I've ever seen, but also that cancels out me being able to believe that Gina Davis loves him so much she can't kill him.
But that's kind of a wrap. The biggest thing that I can say about this movie is, I really is a triumph from Gina Davis, from Jeff Goldblum,
Yeah.
from David Cronenberg too, in that short amount of time, get me to feel so deeply for each of those characters and so deeply for that tragic situation. Because I mean, once say what you will or whatever, but as soon as he starts behaving oddly post teleportation, I'm in. I'm like, oh fuck, this gotta be, the shoe's gotta drop, and then it does with him, being depraved and acne ridden. You feel bad about that, but then you see how hurt Gina Davis is, and that crushes you. But then you see him pull his own fingernails off, and you're like, oh shit, like when he says, like, again, it's just, I mean, there's so many like super lean and efficient lines of dialogue that just like rip my heart out every time. Like when I hear the "help me," or when I hear the "am I dying? Is that what this is? Am I dying?" Or like the "don't kill me." Look at the baby asking for the abortion not to happen. And as he continues to get gross, and he says the thing about it, being a cancer or whatever, and then again, like there's another turn with the Brundle Fly character because at the end he becomes an asshole again because all he's trying to do is turn the person that he supposedly loves so much. And I guess that's another thing that should be mentioned is like Gina Davis is really the one that displays love in this. He's like he says with the insect politician thing, he'd like to be human, he'd like to be an insect politician or whatever, but no, at the end of the day, like he says it during that speech, he's like, I thought I was a man turning into a fly, but I think that I was always kind of an insect man who thought he was a man for a little while, an insect who thought he was a man for a little while. Because at every turn, it's nice to bawl and it's nice to be held, but he doesn't ever actually display any kind of concern for or interest in Gina Davis beyond, So, it really wasn't even until I started talking out loud that it finally clicked with the little speech, the portion where he talks about that, where he's like, I thought I was a man for a little while, because he's been pretty insect like this entire film. So I was genuinely super pleased. I'm giving it an A+. What do you think?
Yeah, like you said, shout out to both of them. Also, especially shout out to Guy Who Sucks. I do love. It's just like a classic. I keep saying.
It's a classic whodunit.
It's a classic How Catch 'Em.
Yeah. How are we gonna catch this fly?
But I feel like I've seen it a million times, and I can't even think of another example. But just the budding relationship with the ex-boyfriend who keeps coming in and out, like. And like when the two are fighting and the ex-boyfriend's like, well, I think it's like, who the fuck was talking to you? Like that kind of thing. Yeah. And I love Guy Who Sucks in this movie because he's that the entire time. Yeah. But this is the only situation I've seen where that relationship at the end, I'm like, Guy Who Sucks, go get him. I'm on your side, man.
Yeah, I mean, on a side note real quick, that's something else. Again, I've only ever seen Videodrome, but now 2 times, 2 outings. They're movies that have like real lean casts. Yeah. Like Videodrome, for the most part, really is just Debbie Harry, and then James Wood, and then his little like computery friend that does like who picks up the Videodrome that keeps calling him Patron. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you know James Wood sucks ass now?
I'm sure he does. I've never been like a. That's literally I know James Wood from Videodrome and Family Guy.
He's just
seeing him in Videodrome is so fucking just like wow.
It's like you look like the cartoon guy from Family
Sure.
Guy. He's just nowadays he's just super. I don't even want to say right wing, but just super anti-gay people. Just he's super homophobic.
Right.
I haven't looked into it, but I'm gonna guess racist.
Yeah.
That's why. I think if I remember correctly, they go to James Woods High in Family Guy.
Yeah.
And they changed it to Adam West High. That's where they all go now.
Why did they change it?
Because James Woods sucks so hard.
Okay.
And I think Adam West died.
Yeah. Okay.
Isn't that insane to think about too? God, I'm just all the Family Guys flooding back to me.
Yeah.
Adam West is the mayor in Family Guy.
Yeah. And Norm Macdonald plays Death. I'm telling you, there's gonna be a day. You can mark my words, where Family Guy's not gonna be as cringe.
You know what's even crazier than that? Huh? Norm Macdonald is the genie in Fairly Odd Parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is genuinely one of those. It's a Vincent Price thing. I think I've mentioned before, where like he did like just some public access like Dracula show for children in Canada because his philosophy was always get them young. Yeah. If there's a generation of children who like me, then guess what? I've got a career for the rest of their lives.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So rest in peace, Norm. I'm gonna give this movie a solid B.
Yeah, for Brundle.
Fly.
We watched another movie this week, as usual. Pretty usual for us to do.
We sure do.
We usually do that. That's usually our move. This one came out, I believe, a year later.
Really?
Yeah, 1 year later.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. It's a very independent picture. Very, very independent picture.
So independent that nobody on IMDb in this cast has a picture.
Nice. It's called Living on Tokyo Time. My history with this situation is Criterion Collection / just saw a couple of stills online, and I was like, you know what, why don't I go for that? It sounds like off the beaten path enough that it might be, to some degree, something I haven't seen before. Mm-hmm. You had any history beforehand, or was it just me saying I want to watch this thing?
Yeah, you said we should watch this, and I went, you got it, boss, and we watched it.
Yeah.
I think I'd seen... I feel like the poster is familiar to me. Yeah. But I can't remember. I probably saw it scrolling through Criterion one time or another. Yeah. That might be just it. But yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I have as much to say about this thing, just because it is bordering on
Boring?
yeah, but not just boring, but
Not
like
in a bad way, but like Blade Runner.
not even like Blade Runner. It's also a little bit like so low budget that it's almost like I don't know. Like, are you familiar with the game Plumbers Don't Wear Ties?
No.
Okay, well, it's kind of got like I don't know. It's like it's very impressive at the same time. I think it's genuinely impressive, but it's I don't know. It is such like it's almost like you definitely have to cut out all this mealy mouth business, but it's really an achievement for an independent film. I really definitely stand by that. But it is so much like in terms of like the actual like acting and stuff. Like it's barely. I don't know.
Yeah,
But I don't even want to go that far because that's like almost rude because it does still. It's so close, and in fact, in a lot of ways, it is. You know what I'm saying? It is. It's both close and is, but also lacking in other ways.
For sure.
It's an interesting little thing. It really is.
We do
Beautiful.
have to back up, though. I
Sure.
would like to know what Plumbers Don't Wear Ties is.
Have fun with that later.
I feel like we're here right now. I'm just going to be thinking about it the entire time.
Okay, Plumbers Don't Wear Ties. I believe it's a Sega CD game.
Okay.
I want to say it's Sega CD. I can double check that right now. But it's basically one of those kind of like full motion video games from like the 90s.
This, just so you know, in the past 2 minutes, Plumbers Don't Wear Ties has looked 5 different ways in my head.
Okay.
You said it at first, and I thought it was like a game you play with friends, like in a playground.
Yeah.
Like a Red Rover or something.
Sure.
And then I was like, oh, it could be like a Don't Wake a Daddy type board game kind of thing. And then you said it was on Sega CD, and so I was like, okay. And I was picturing a plumber in the E.T. type game kind of thing. And then you're like, oh no, it's a full motion video game. I'm like, oh, God, I'm getting whiplash. What? That looks like an instructional porno tape from the 80s.
That's pretty cool. It's exactly it. Yeah. It's an interactive romantic comedy. So every like minute or so, you get to make a decision about what these characters do. I'll send you a video later of someone doing like a very brief. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's worth watching, genuinely. Not even just because I'm a fan of AVGN. It's just because the actual game is so like such a novelty. But anyways, the basic rundown of this movie is that it's a very lo-fi, very low budget romantic comedy.
Yeah, we I'm so sorry to keep backtracking you.
You're whiplashing me, but go ahead. Metallica.
To what you were saying, we'll get to that later in a minute.
Sure.
But,
oh, right. Oh, damn. Yeah.
What you were saying about like how low budget this is and how I'm sorry to these people, bad most of the acting is in this. It's passable. Is what all their acting is.
But the rest of it is
so
good.
much so that there's that guy who I don't know his name. He's one of the guys that he works with who's like a little bigger and he's balding.
Yeah.
I like everybody.
Like middle-aged white dude with balding.
Yeah, everybody in this movie, their acting is at the exact same point, which is arguably not great.
Yeah.
That when this guy came on screen at one point, I went, this guy's the best actor in this movie.
Yeah.
And it made me realize that, like, oh yeah, all the acting in this movie has been not great up until this point, and it doesn't really matter.
No, it definitely has that vibe of like, again, like it's a very inspirational thing. So it's like it's just like Evil Dead or like The Clerks kind of the effect where like it's like, wow, like this is just a guy who had a little idea for a movie and some friends, and he said, hey, would you be in my movie?
This is like a classic white man getting all the credit. This is Clerks before Clerks, it feels like. And what I mean by it's boring, the same way that I think Blade Runner's boring, and not in a bad way, where it's just like you are just kind of with these people.
Sure. Yeah.
Like there's something's going on. There's a plot that's moving everything forward, but also this guy's just going to work every day. That's pretty much all that's happening.
Yeah. Very slice of life. Let me read this letter real quick before my co-host shoots me with a gun. Living on Tokyo. Where did I take that from the top? Living on Tokyo time. It truly does not matter what country you come from, what language you speak, or how much money you have. At the end of the day, we all have a guy who talks about Lou Reed too much. That's pointed, very pointed. 8.5 out of 10. Yeah, that part did give me a boner.
I think that's the point of this movie.
I think that's the point of the movie.
She's like, I guess I'll marry this guy to stay in this country. And then he's just like, I just love Lou Reed. And she's like, it's just too much. I gotta get out of here.
Yeah. It starts out, I do really, really like that opening scene of her just looking into the camera and telling her story while she's kind of crying, where she's like, I was engaged and then he fucked around on me and I figured, you know what? I want to go to America. It kind of rings of like, I was going to do it as a bit, but I was going to be like, is there anybody going to listen to my story?
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of got that thing. Hard cut to her in America. She just kind of washes dishes at a restaurant. And she's like trying to teach herself English. She doesn't speak it very well. I do like in the beginning, like, I do like the attempt to have her get like better at English throughout. Again, I think it's one of like the successes. Like, you know, there's her American coworker's talking to her and she's asking her questions and she's like, help me tie the kimono. She's like, oh yes, you are in a beautiful kimono or whatever. She's like, no, help me tie it, you know. But then later on she's able to hold conversations with people who don't.
Yeah.
But anyways, we also meet like what is, I guess, essentially our main character. He is not my favorite character in this movie at all.
No.
He's just too aloof, like way too aloof.
First scene you see him, he's eating cereal,
garbage,
sloppy,
gross.
and he fumbles the baddie.
Fumbles the baddie hard. She's like, hey, would you like even look at me? And he's like, Captain Crunch. But he likes guitars and stuff, so that's what he does. He alludes to having done drugs in the past, maybe having a drug problem earlier. Whatever. He's got a sister. She seems somewhat potentially overbearing because, like, I know that she mentions multiple times that there's things he doesn't want to tell her because, like, she'll freak out and she'll tell dad, yada, yada, yada. She works at, like, a travel agency with her husband. They make like $6,000 a month last month, they said, which is crazy for 87 money. Mm-hmm. But whatever. Basically, the gist of this situation. Okay, before I even get to that, I want to talk about his little diner that he hangs out with. Our main character, the diner hangs out with.
Oh, the best character in this movie?
Yeah, with the mullet man with the mustache. He just wants to be this main character's friend so bad, and the main character's so aloof he can't even tell how much this grown man who has biceps.
Sucks. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a cool guy.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, you know what happens at the end of this movie?
Huh?
She goes back to Japan and marries a Japanese Seth Brundle.
Yeah.
And then this guy keeps calling over the phone like, I'm going to explode. I was going to say expose, but yeah, I'll explode Japanese Seth Brundle.
Yeah.
Because he's the guy who sucks in this movie.
Yeah, that's true. That's actually true. But I do also like, you know, to fast forward to the end, I want to mention again one of the like things I love about this movie. Oh, no, let's wait till we get there. We'll wait till we get there. So basically, on his end, I don't know what's in it for him. He just, I guess, is aloof enough that he's like, sure, whatever, I'll go with it. But our main woman character, she's like, I think her name is Kyoko, I think.
Okay.
I think it's Kyoko.
Could be.
But anyways, she's gonna marry him for a green card, right?
Yeah.
And what ends up happening is it gets tainted on his end where he's like, maybe we could actually fall in love. And she's like, no, this is a green card situation. I do like when she goes to take like the legitimacy test for the marriage, how it like keeps cutting between both of them, like not having the right answers and stuff. It's great.
I love. What's his favorite food? Hamburgers.
Yeah.
Because he's like, I don't know, like any type of like mac and cheese or seafood. Like he just has like a super complicated answer.
Yeah. And I also really like I also really like that like as soon as she takes it, she like goes home and she's like half packing. She doesn't totally leave, but she's like, yeah, I gotta move back. I gotta go back.
Yeah.
I know for a fact that test didn't go well. I gotta go back.
I love when she's like writing her parents. Like she's like, no, I'm gonna stay. I met a nice guy and I'm staying here. And
I like when she's coming home. She's like, yeah, he died. So
exactly.
I'm gonna come
That's
home.
what I was getting at. Like, and she doesn't want to admit that it didn't work out. She's like, oh, turns out he died, so I'm gonna come home.
Yeah, so good. But yeah, so eventually he's telling his buddies like, yeah, I think I'm in love and stuff like that, and he tries to bring it up to her, and then she's like, no, dude, this is a no-go. And then yeah, one of the things, I guess my biggest praise, and I'll turn it over to you for a little bit because I know I'm kind of like just blazing through like my favorite things very passionately in a short amount of time, and I apologize for that, but I also really love like, again, at a time like 87, like not to like, Obviously there were movies that had done the sad ending before and yada yada yada, but I feel like 87 is a particular time, especially with movies and how they kind of end. I'm just thinking of like a lot of big things like John Hughes movies and Back to the Future and The Fly and stuff. For it to end with her being like, no, dude, like literally not only is this not working out, but also I don't even know if America's moving out and I'm gonna move home. And then like they end with like that like bittersweet thing where like she still wants to write home to him, just that, like I said, it's like such a simple ending. Like again, it is like an indie movie by all intents and all definition. It's kind of like it does do that thing where like it's like nothing kind of happens except for like personalities clash, personal growth, whatever. It just kind of like fizzles out. Like it doesn't ramp up to like, oh, and then they fell in love and they got married or anything like that. It's just like kind of like, no, she moved home because like it wasn't gonna work ever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I enjoyed this little thing, and also it's just full of, there's odd things here and there. Like we mentioned, the guy who runs the little diner that the main character goes to being just a hoot and a half, but also like his band, even they keep referring to the band as heavy metal. Very funny.
And they are not. Yeah. I love the dudes that he works with, and I just love the good like little mundane conversations that are happening while he's talking about like, I think I love her, and then the guy in the background's like, have you tried the tuna sandwich in this vending machine? He's like, yeah, just get rid of the lettuce and it's fine. Yeah. But I just don't know what's happening with her.
Yeah.
And like,
and on that topic, I should also mention, like, that being one of the things that, like, Clerks, I've heard Kevin Smith say a million times where he's like, I've just never seen a movie where, like, people are just, like, talking the way that, like, my friends talk or whatever. Yeah. And, like, this movie does that. Like, again, it's mundane. Yeah. People are just having conversations, but not in, like, a, French New Wave way where, like, they're just talking about, like, oh, she's so beautiful, I must make her mine before I leave France because I killed 2 cops the other day and I hope they don't find out. Instead, they're just sitting around being like, oh, I wonder if that tuna sandwich is any good. Or, like, oh, you like Lou Reed too? Walk on the Wild Side's a really good song. Like, it's really genuinely, like, how I feel like people kind of talk to each other. And it's 1987 also.
It's 1987.
Good. Ahead of its time.
Again, one of my biggest takeaways in this movie, that I just want to smoke cigarettes inside.
Yeah. A lot of smoking in this movie.
But also a lot of smoking in this movie, a lot of smoking and just sitting down outside. And it really makes me think about, like, modernity. Being like, man, I cannot really imagine smoking an entire cigarette without looking at my phone. Like, he's just sitting, like, in a drain somewhere. Yeah. I'm like, that's buck wild. Cannot imagine.
Just raw dogging real life.
I would never finish an entire cigarette.
Yeah,
in the
not
80s.
A phone in sight. Well, if you could have it inside.
If I could have it inside, yeah,
probably finish it up.
I'd be watching Jeopardy or some shit. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I didn't. There's nothing I disliked about this movie. Yeah. It just didn't like super stick with me. Us talking about it now, I am liking it more and more. But like we finished watching it, I was like, yeah, okay, that was fine.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. It does kind of come and go. It is a low budget, lo-fi
That's
movie.
A great way to put it. It comes and it goes.
Yeah, but again, like it's one of those things where it's like not even from. I don't even think I'm a pretentious of a guy. Like I understand why this is in the Criterion Collection. And I think it deserves to be in there. But at the same time, it is, That's the other thing about being low budget, I guess, is like, again, what an achievement for 87. Because again, like 87, I feel like, and especially like in color, like not that cheap, not that cheap. Excuse me. And yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those movies that like, had it come out 10, 20 years later, like I feel like, it could have been even more cheap on their end. Like the burden. And yeah, I guess it's just I guess what I'm trying to really get at is that it's a wonder, and I'm proud of the fact that it was able to overcome the financial hurdle of 87 to be made, because obviously it deserved to be made. And that's one of the tricky things about art, is that sometimes it requires quite a bit of money. So the fact that, again, they were able to scrounge this together. I don't know how. Yeah. I don't know anything about this movie's background because this barely has a Wikipedia page. I'm sure I could go to Criterion and read a little bit, or I could buy the Criterion edition, and I'm sure there's documentaries or like little commentary track that could give me more insight. But what I'm trying to get at is that like the information isn't necessarily the most readily available stuff. So I don't have a big background on this movie. I don't.
And yeah, I do. I really appreciate for as, I don't know, kind of cheap this movie looks, there are a few moments where I'm like, oh, wow, that looks
it's
great.
still aesthetically pleasing a lot of the time.
Yeah, I love every time she's just riding her bike around. Yeah. Like I said, him smoking in that drain ditch looks great. When she tells him that she's leaving and you don't hear the conversation. It's just that shot from like up in his apartment building, and like they're just separated by the two archways.
Yeah.
And then she leaves, and he's just standing in his alone by himself. Great.
Or the
Great
one where
shit.
she's on the bike and he like comes out of that door. He's like high
Yeah.
up ish, and she's down on the street. Yeah.
I think it might be reversed, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Really good stuff. Yeah, like I said, it looks great. Acting is passable, but again, that sounds like a slight, but no, I mean, just for average people who are not actors, like quite an achievement. And yeah, here's something.
The acting in this is as good as the acting in Clerks, probably.
Sure, yeah. I want to look up the director.
I did just look up like the actors and stuff like that. The guy who plays Ken, his name is Ken.
So Steven, I can't pronounce his last name. I'm not going to try out of respect. He's an American documentary filmmaker known for his raw cinema verite style documentaries that frequently show ordinary people dealing with extraordinary circumstances. He has received a Peabody Award, a Primetime Emmy, and a Primetime Enemy. He has a Primetime Enemy. No, but he has a Primetime
8
Emmy.
o'clock every night he's getting attacked.
Yeah, and it's To the Death. And has been nominated for 4 Academy Awards, winning an Oscar for the documentary short subject Days of Waiting, the life and art of Estelle. Again, and a last name that I, out of respect, am not going to attempt. So apparently he's had quite the career since living on Tokyo Time. I'm just taking a quick look around. Yeah, it looks like it's all kind of documentary stuff that I'm not very familiar with because I'm just not huge into documentaries. I don't have anything against them. I'm just not, the documentary guy. The documentary guy. Everybody's got a friend who's... But he's also a multi-instrumentalist. He used to live in San Francisco, a punk rock music group called The Maids from 77 to 79. Whose single Back to Baton gained some notoriety by way of later punk music compilations. So yeah, apparently I would assume, there's quite a bit of true to life stuff in the living on Tokyo Time, given that I now know that he was in punk rock bands.
Hell yeah.
He's been married to a woman named Peggy since 1991, so that's exciting. She's the author of New York Times bestseller Boys and Sex, Girls and Sex, Cinderella Ate My Daughter, and Waiting for Disney, as well as Don't Call Me Princess, Flux, and the classic Schoolgirls. Her TED Talk has been viewed by over 5.5 million times. So, anyways, I now have a little bit of background on the individual who made this movie. Sounds like a cool guy. So, I'm going to give the movie I think A+.
I'm going to give it a solid B, the same one I gave
nice.
The Fly.
Nice. Easy day for recording these scores into the grade book. Just a reminder that we do have a running grade book. All the grades we've given every movie we've ever watched for this podcast.
It's on his website.
Nicholas Alexander Johnson, what in the fuck are you going to make me watch this week?
Well, I think before that, I don't think we're done.
Oh, why? Is there a third movie we watched this week?
Let's talk about Barry.
You want to talk about Barry?
Yeah, Barry ended.
Okay. Yeah. Last we spoke, I hadn't...
spoilers for the end of Barry. Yeah. Actually, you know what? Since we're going to do spoilers for the end of Barry, let's decide movies for next week, and then whoever doesn't want to listen to the spoilers for Barry can just drop out here.
Okay.
Do you want to start doing Star Wars?
We could. I'm fine with that.
Ooh, my pitches are Star Wars or Gina Davis-a-thon. Beetlejuice and A League of Their Own.
You can make the call. I'm fine with either. I'm just trying to look. Do I want to do? Here's some potentials. You can,
Well, if I want to do Star Wars. If we do Star Wars, I want them, all of them, like at once, like in a row.
Like one episode? Or you're saying you're locking it in for like the next 6 episodes?
Like a couple episodes, yeah.
Okay.
So if you don't want to commit to that, I understand. We could do something else.
So you're saying you want to watch like a couple in one episode and the whole episode's just Star Wars?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or I think it would be a lot of fun if me and you just gung-ho watched all of Star Wars in a row.
Not very realistic for the next 2 weeks.
I know, yeah.
Because I
do an episode on all of them.
Tuesday, The Cure. Wednesday, Zilch music video. Thursday, Zilch show. Friday, going to Muskegon. Saturday, Modest Mouse show. Sunday, Father's Day, and then I don't know what the next week looks like, but that basically only leaves me with Monday for next week.
Okay. Then we can do something else.
Okay, I'm looking at my little list here of shit. All right, champ, pick a number 1 through 3.
I'd rather you didn't call me champ, but 2.
2? Oh, you picked Face Off. That's my...
Did I?
Yeah.
Okay.
The contenders were Perfect Blue, Face Off, and Candyman.
I'm gonna do Wild at Heart.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Sick.
Sure.
Double. We're getting caged up.
Yeah, I want to watch Candyman so bad. All right.
Fucking Spider-Man 2. The second game's coming out. It's got Venom in it. You know who's voicing Venom?
Candyman?
Yeah, Tony Todd is voicing Venom. Isn't that wicked?
That's crazy.
So sick.
Yeah.
So
I'm
sick.
going to try not to blink for the rest of this we're
Okay, so those are we're watching Candyman. No, we're watching Wild at Heart and Face Off.
Yeah.
I want to do a spooky one though. Can we do Candyman instead?
Instead of Face Off?
Yeah. And then what I pick with Candyman? Wild at Heart.
Wild at Heart and Candyman?
Do you want to do Face Off and Candyman?
Face Off and Candyman. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
We've done enough David Lynch. For now. We can get to it eventually.
We'll give Dave the rest.
Next week is going to be Candyman.
Isn't it crazy to think about David Lynch as a guy named Dave?
Off. Yeah, that is nuts. 1 moment. It's going on the whiteboard, which means it's locked in. So if there's one rule of the podcast, is that once it's on the whiteboard, you can't change it 4 times in a week.
Okay. We'll see, but okay.
Candyman, this is not the first time that Candyman has graced this whiteboard.
It might not be the last.
My knees hurt.
You've been sitting for like an hour.
That's good. Taking a load off.
Okay, so for everybody, that's that Mattress Man. Now we're talking about Barry.
Barry time.
Last time we talked,
I had finished season 3, so it ended where the show should have ended.
Yeah. It reminds me.
Sure.
I saw the new Spider-Verse.
Okay.
And after I saw it, I thought, damn, Chris might be right. Things might not need sequels.
Yeah.
And I saw the ending of Barry, and I was like, damn, Elton might have been right. There might not have needed to be a season 4 of Barry. But I'm so glad there was.
I'm glad there was too, but I was actually ashamed to say that to you, but when I was watching the first couple episodes, I was like, bruh, I think Elton might have been right. But no, season 4 was still good, yeah.
Especially, what has it been, like a week, 2 weeks almost?
Maybe.
Since the last episode happened?
Who knows?
Who
knows?
There's no way to find out.
There's no way to track time. It's elusive, slippery.
Yeah, this podcast is evergreen. It's
like
timeless.
Sand. It gets everywhere.
And yeah, the first few episodes of season 4,
you were nutting.
Kiss.
You just kept coming out like, oh my god.
Like,
you're like whatever his name is, Dave
Bautista.
Hayter. He might be my favorite director.
Yeah, like just
sorry, my brain is mush today. I can't think of names of nothing.
It's totally fine. Like those, like in the early seasons, he's always having those fantasies about him and Sally having a kid.
Yeah, which I just found out. I got a letter from my doctor that said that I'm an idiot. Because I thought that was like flashbacks to him being his dad, hanging out with his dad.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's what I always thought.
In the earlier seasons?
Mm-hmm. I always thought that was him hanging out with his dad.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So his dad was hanging out with John Hamm?
Who's John Hamm?
The actor, John Hamm, shows up as himself in one of these dream sequences?
That's his dad? And his dad is John Hamm?
No. I'm talking about in the earlier seasons, like season 1.
Yeah.
He'll have like a fantasy about being married to Sally, and they're both famous actors.
Oh, interesting.
And like, one of them, they've got kids.
I thought you were talking about the couple of times where it was almost like, because like I feel like that happened in like season 2 or 3 where like he had what I thought was a flashback to like a child, him, and his dad, but it was actually him and his fantasy son.
Okay.
And so when that happened at the end of that one episode that does the time jump, my dad was like talking about how it was a time jump, and I was like, huh? when did it happen? And he was like, at the end. And I was like, oh, because when I saw
thought
it, I
that
thought it
was
was
him
just
and his dad.
another flashback thing.
Yeah.
But now I know that it's...
Yeah, I love that it freaks your being.
Yeah.
Because like every time you've been seeing these, like he's having those fantasies about the desert.
Yeah.
And then when that happens, I'm like, oh yeah, no, this is him thinking about himself as a child. And then he goes in and it's old Bill Hader and Sally.
Yeah.
Sarah
Because even in
Goldberg.
that scene, I was like, damn. Like, because I thought it was, like, interesting because you look like your parents, like, okay, so Bill Hader just plays his dad. And then I saw his mom, and I was like, damn, okay, just have Sally play his mom. Because, yeah, I guess you do kind of go after women who look like your mom. So, interesting thing for the show to do.
Yeah, no, I was like...
So, like I said, certified idiot over here. Dummy dunce, man.
Yeah, at first I thought it was like, oh, this is just another one of the fantasies he's having about, running away and having a family with Sally.
Yeah.
And then the episode ends, and I'm like, oh, fuck, no, that has to be real. Like, that has to be what's happening. And I thought that was great. But, like, even earlier in the season when he's having... I love, because, like, how do you make him being in prison interesting? And, like, all those, like, him, like, disassociating and having those, like, desert visions and stuff like that. I thought all of those were great.
Yeah.
Like, when little him meets Fuchs...
Yeah.
And I love that that's just far away.
Yeah.
It's like...
I love that scene. It's a very touching scene.
Yeah, and I heard him talking somewhere like, yeah, we didn't want to like have to put him in like young makeup or anything like that. Stephen Root, who plays Fuchs. But I do love just like... Yeah, it takes place in that desert, and like it's kind of... They're far away, so it's hard to see. And like just like... That's not exactly what a memory is like, but like... That's like the best way I think I've ever seen on screen a memory being shown,
Yeah.
Because it's not exact and you can't really get a full grasp on like what's going on that far away, and also it's in the desert, so there's nothing like, obviously that scene didn't happen in the desert, but like that's not what's important. What's important is like that meeting, what's happening with them and what you can hear. And then I just busting nuts over let me say that again, just love when there's one of those like fantasies in the desert, and then that just wedding party runs through, and then goes into a hallway, and it's just a fantasy he's having of him and Sally dancing at someone else's wedding.
Yeah.
I don't know why I love that so much. It's just so good.
Yeah.
Like all, especially since like all the other flashbacks, or not flashbacks, all the other fantasies he was having with her are like, like just crazy idyllic. Like he's got a bunch of Emmys on the background and he's hanging out with John Hamm and stuff like that. But this is just like such a simple little thing that like an old married couple would do, would be just dancing quietly at someone else's wedding.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
And then the time jump happens, and from then on I'm like, no, this is strange. Because I feel like I missed 2 seasons of Barry.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? How do you feel about it?
Well, to take back for a second, I will say something that I've liked Fuchs since the beginning.
Yeah.
I've liked Fuchs quite a bit. It's so interesting to think about like season 1, season 2, because you do kind of drink the Kool-Aid to some degree in season 1, where you're like, yeah, it's like a silly little comedy about this guy who's like a hitman who wants to be like an actor. And like there's a part of it where you're like, yeah, man, I want you to be an actor or whatever, And in the first season, I liked Fuchs a lot as a villain in my head, but I was like, no, he's like funny, and like I know he's manipulative, and that's the point, but like he does endear me with his manipulation, like even though I'm basically falling for it. But you kind of think he's a dick because he's like, you can't just become an actor, you're a hitman. And at the time, you're like, dude, get the fuck, what stick is up your ass? But now you look back, or even like at the time, if you're very sensible, and like, yeah, you don't just stop being a murderer.
Yeah, like
yeah, like you know what I'm talking about. In season 1, I'm sure you can relate to the fact that you were like, get this guy out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
Who is this Fuchs man talking nonsense? And now, like, looking back, and I'm like, maybe I should have gotten that letter from my doctor earlier, because I had to be an idiot to think Fuchs wasn't right.
Yeah, it's that, and season 2, like in season 2 when Sally's ex-husband shows up.
Mm-hmm.
In season 1, he's with Fuchs, and in season 2, he's paired with that guy.
Yeah.
So he's always with a guy that you think is worse than him, and it's not until season 3 where he's kind of on his own, where I'm like, oh,
no, Barry's
right.
the worst.
Barry's the worst guy.
Yeah. And that was something I was going to say about this season is, on one hand, with the Fuchs thing, I love that scene of him meeting Barry.
Yeah.
Because it shows, like, whether or not, like, and you can make the argument of either A, Fuchs just knows human whatever enough to know that, like, him respecting what were clearly boundaries for a child, Barry, and telling his dad, like standing up even to his dad and be like, no, don't force him. We'll hang out whenever we hang out.
Yeah.
You could argue that that's like him just being like a master manipulator, snake person, or to a degree, it's in there. It might just be in there.
Might just be a sweet moment, yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that you see time and time again. I mean, I'm not trying to talk about these people being great people by any stretch of the imagination, but you hear stories all the time about like serial killers who are like really good dads, though.
Yeah.
You do hear it. So anyways, like, yeah, I mean, Fuchs could genuinely just got that dog in him, that daddy dog.
Yeah,
You know, like that dog from the Looney Tunes, the one that's got the little baby dog. He's a bad dog. He's a good dog, but he's a bad dog. Bulldog, and he's got a little baby dog.
Oh,
you know what I'm talking
about? Yeah.
It's whatever. Anyways, all I'm trying to say is like there's these moments like that endear you to him. Like I'm thinking a little bit later, a little bit ahead of myself, but like when NoHo Hank lets it out of the bag that like he's got Barry's son, and you can just see it in the actor's face that like, okay, Fuchs, his whole plan's different now.
Yeah.
But anyways, to go back, yeah, season 4 has just been knocks it out of the park quite a bit. Season 3 also, but even season 3 and 4 are all about just being like, yeah, you thought Barry Berkman was fun because I'm Bill Hader.
Yeah, exactly.
The actual character is an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
Because yeah, just an awful person, incapable of caring about anybody besides himself. Any amount of care he might have for another person is because he sees them as having some kind of value. That is not even necessarily inherent to who they are or the value that they, you know what I'm saying? Like, Mr. Kusanov. Like, why does he like Mr. Kusanov? Because Mr. Kusanov represents this other life that he could attain, and in his mind, he's built up Kusanov as the gatekeeper of that. If he could please
Fuchs of being an actor. Yeah.
Sure. If he could just please Mr. Kusanov, everything's gonna be okay. But anyways, yeah, like I'm just thinking about like when he's like,
it's not even so much that if he can please Mr. Kusanov, it's if Mr. Kusanov can keep doing things for him.
Yeah.
Because that's what a lot of season 3 happens is Kusanov, he knows he's fucking over Kusanov just at every corner, but he's like, yeah, but we're good now, right? You like me again? Like, you can keep being my dad, right? Yeah. Even though I threatened to kill your family, you're going to be my dad? Yeah.
Like, another moment, though, that is, like, just really hard to stomach is, like, the NoHo Hank thing, where he's like, you're ratting me out to the FBI right now. He's like, what? No, come on, man. I wouldn't do that. You have to get rid of... this is a loose end. You really got to tie this up for me. You're going to tighten this up for me, aren't you? He's like, I don't want to say it over this phone, but I need someone who can catch a cat or whatever the fuck you were saying. And NoHo Hank's like, you can go fuck yourself.
I love that. I love that scene so much.
Oh, yeah. It's great. Because you get to see, like, Barry double down and being like, no, I'm that guy.
Yeah.
And NoHo Hank be like, hey, fuck you if that's the case.
I'm also that guy.
Yeah.
I do love, you find out, the point of NoHo Hank's ending is like he's not that guy, but you're not that guy, pal. Trust me. But I love that line where he's like, "Ooh, Hank, I swear to God, when I got out of prison," Hank goes, "Oh, when you get out of prison is my fucking birthday." It's like, oh, that's so good.
Yeah. But building up to that, so Barry escapes.
He's a loose.
Also, NoHo Hank goes through his whole thing. I don't mean to write it off because it is fantastic. But just for the sake of not going on forever, we can stop and mention it. But, him and Cristobal, great performances. NoHo Hank, basically the Chechens get involved and they're like, hey, listen, we're going to fuck shit all the way up. And him being like, damn, I'm going to play ball to try to minimize risk and danger. And Cristobal finds out about what that entails, and he's like, you're not the guy that I'm in love with.
Because he almost kills him, too.
He does actually almost kill him. To be fair, he was like, come on, Cristobal, we got to go.
Yeah.
And Cristobal doesn't, because he's... Why would he be suspicious of anything?
Cristobal doesn't know the plan because he didn't tell him.
Yeah. And so then Cristobal gets murdered because he says, hey, NoHo Hank, I don't want to be with you because you're a monster now to me. And, Cristobal's like, NoHo Hank's like, I'm sorry. Things will be different. I'm sorry. He's like, no, things can never be different because you're a monster now to me.
It's that scene's so tough because I think it works in two ways for me where it's so hard to see NoHo Hank trying to get him to come back, and Cristobal, incredible performance of him just being like, when he hugs him, just being like repulsed by him and be like, don't touch me. Like just like that very, very, very serious, I don't want to be with you anymore. And the other person being like, oh no, this is just a relationship where we're having a fight. And that's what NoHo Hank wants it to be. And just, it's like, oh, this is so tough that that's happening to him. But him saying over and over again, no Hank over and over again, saying, you know too much.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, because you know Cristobal's not going to make it out of that driveway.
Yeah.
And it's just so tough. It's just so tough.
And, you know, and also on the Fuchs note, real quick, I want to pause and just say, like, yeah, like time and time again in the show, no matter how much of a piece of shit he's being, if there's a moment where he feels like Barry is open to having a relationship again, he's so willing to like just change his plans, and then immediately like they'll get changed back because they'll be like, oh no, Barry's still a piece of shit or whatever. But just anytime that like there's any like the faintest whiff of reconciliation, he's like, oh, Barry said that.
Yeah,
Barry said that? Yeah,
it's really lame
Always.
what you guys did. You're trying to pin me against my friend. No, you guys were already having a friend fight.
You guys were already having a friend fight. Yeah, classic.
And yeah, no, I love that. Yeah, he 2 separate times in the show, Fuchs has gotten the ideal life where he gets to live on a farm with a different beautiful woman.
Yeah,
and just the
and
second,
he's give it up for Barry.
And he gives it up for
effectively his son.
Effectively because he wants to go kill Barry, but also it's like, yeah, no, he just wants to be in Barry's life.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said at the end, him.
Fuchs and Barry, their relationship really kind of reminds me of like Yondu and whatever the fuck Chris Pratt's name is. Yeah. He's got that just kind of like, that might have been your daddy or father, but he ain't your daddy. Kind of thing. Yeah.
But I think I do like that arguably the only person who seems to have learned a lesson at the end of the show is Fuchs.
Mm-hmm.
And like it seems like he maybe doesn't even, like he says he learned in prison, he's just a guy without a heart. And then he saves Barry's son, so it feels like it's not until those last 2 minutes that he figures out like, oh no, I care about people and I care about Barry and I care about this kid.
Yeah.
Also, I love that scene. It's very upsetting. Like I didn't like really appreciate it the first time. I think it's too close to, you know, immediately the killing of NoHo Hank. But I love that gunfight that all of them have. And instead of like, remember the end of season 2 where he shoots up the monastery, Barry?
Yeah.
And it's brutal and like, you know, he's doing something wrong, but it's cool. I love that this gunfight right here is just one shot.
Yeah.
And there's nothing romantic about it. And it's just gross and it's just kind of limp.
Yeah.
And like I think that's how all the violence in this season is. It's just like, oh, gross. Like, fuck, I didn't like seeing that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's kind of like an interesting thing about the trajectory of the show as a whole is like as it continues on, it becomes less of, like, for lack of a better way of putting it, I don't even mean this exactly, but like just kind of popcorn comedy TV or whatever, and it's just been getting more and like it started as like a funny thing where it's like, what if a hitman wanted to be not totally silly, you know what I'm saying? Like it just had a little more silly to it, and it's just gotten less and less silly as it goes on. Like season 2 is way more of a bummer than season 1. Season 3 is way more of a bummer than season 1 and 2. Season 4 is about as much of a bummer, if not maybe.
And like arguably, it's what I like about, as it gets more and more of a bummer, it feels like it gets less and less funny, but it's not.
Yeah.
Like when you like, if you like on second watches of these episodes, they get funnier.
Yeah.
I think maybe the hardest I laughed in season 4 is that there's that very touching moment where he comes outside, Barry comes up to kill all those people, and Fuchs comes out with his son, and they're looking at each other from across the thing, and just gives him that little nod. And that's such a sweet, powerful moment. And then Fuchs turns around and does a little run into the darkness, and that made me laugh really, really hard. But like, arguably, if you're caught up in that scene like you're supposed to, that goes right by you.
Yeah.
And also Fred Armisen at the end of that episode, episode's so fucking funny.
Yeah, the podcast host of the podcast about gadgets that don't work, and then his assassination gadget doesn't work.
Just his face, and like the restraint that Bill Hader had to put none of his SNL friends in the show, except for Fred Armisen right there, that one moment.
And also it's a good Barry moment where he's like, nope, this guy's going to kill me. I can tell he's nervous. He's got a weapon on him or something. This guy's going to try to kill me.
Yeah, and it's just like, the joke is funny because that guy's sweaty and nervous, but I think it has that second punch where it's like, oh fuck, that's Fred Armisen.
Yeah, and I don't want to go on for too long because I feel like we got to be over 2 hours at this point.
We're at 1:30.
That's it? Mm-hmm. Oh my god, I thought we were going on for fucking ever.
That's why I was like, let's talk about Barry, because
we started this at like 9:15. Anyways, Yeah, but basically, yeah, they do the 8-year time jump. Little weird, just mainly from my perspective, like you were saying a second ago, it just kind of feels a bit like, when like Justice League Unlimited is like, hey, let's touch in on Batman Beyond character, but 10 years after the show kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just got that kind of a vibe.
Yeah.
Where like it's a fun episode you go out of your way to like watch, but like to a degree it has that like almost like non-canonical feel, but this is obviously canon, but it does kind of have like that, you know what I'm saying?
It feels like Barry got canceled.
Alternate universe.
And then 10 years later, they're like, cool, I'm Bill Hader, now I have $1 million. I can fund the last couple episodes
feels
of
like
Barry
El Camino. It
but
feels
also,
like the El
exactly.
Camino of Breaking Bad.
But like different because...
I've never seen it, I'm just saying.
But the thing about El Camino is the problem, but also it's not that much of a problem, is it happens 10 years later, but it also is supposed to happen the day after the show ends, so everybody looks 10 years older. And so it's kind of like, if you just watch it and think of it like a play, it's really good. And like you can kind of get over it that like, this guy looks 35 pounds heavier than he did 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
But Barry, that time jump feels like, it got canceled and they came back to the rest of the episodes where they were like, well, fuck, we really have to change the whole thing because everybody looks older now. So how do we write these characters 8 years in the future now? But instead, no, they just did it in the middle of this season.
Yeah.
And I don't love it, but I do like quite a bit the last episode.
Oh, yeah. I like it a lot. I think the 8-year jump paid off a lot. I know I've heard Bill Hader quoted as saying, I wanted to look at like what it would look like if these characters got what they thought they wanted, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, Bill Hader and Sally, just a fucking nightmare situation with her like
Sarah
working
Goldberg.
as like a fucking
Sarah Goldberg, sorry.
as like a fucking like waitress while like Bill Hader's just at home Amazon ordering stuff and teaching his son about Abraham Lincoln and God.
Yeah, I love
just a fucking nightmare.
I don't know if it's supposed to be a joke or not, but it's just a nice little touch that I love that did make me laugh. Is when Sally is working as that waitress in that shitty little dive, when her and that other waitress are smoking cigarettes in the bathroom. They're drinking cans of Coke, and I don't know why that's so funny to me. Just like, that fits perfectly.
Yeah.
And she has that weird thing of that guy, and she's still fucked up, obviously, because she killed a man 8 years ago. And then there's that weird thing where the house gets attacked. And, like, did it really get attacked? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, she's losing touch. She tries to even turn herself in at one point. Koos now goes away for 8 years.
I love before they leave when their son hangs out with that neighbor kid and they play baseball together, and then they like have a nice little moment together. And there's a beat, and then he goes, "Does your mom wear fake hair over her real hair?"
Yeah.
And that's so funny when Bill Hader or Barry finds out he was playing catch with that kid and just shows him a montage of kids dying playing baseball. Oh god!
But yeah, Koos now goes away for like 8 years. There is the cliffhanger.
The hair
ending.
extensions on Henry Winkler look horrible.
They look very bad.
He looks like a dog.
But that's what gets Barry back in LA, because Koos now goes to like Warner Brothers to stop a Barry Bergman movie from being made, but it makes headlines that he's shown up, so the movie's getting more attention. Ironically, right? It's just it's kind of a bit of irony, in my opinion, the fact that the movie probably would have like sizzled and done nothing, but because a man who's been missing for 8 years shows up, suddenly the movie's hot as fuck.
Yeah.
And there's some information that comes out once his late girlfriend Jim Moss gets a hold of Barry. That's the cliffhanger I was talking about. They end up like the Koos now kind of goes down for like being involved in the Chechen mob and like paying for his girlfriend to be knocked off.
Quite the leap, but
crazy.
I like where it takes things.
For sure.
I do love another moment that made me laugh pretty hard is when Barry's hooked up to that thing. He's like, "Oh god, I'm so sorry." It's just like the blackout goggles and a drug hooked up into his arm.
Yeah.
But at one point you hear him in the background go, "Oh, turn this thing off."
Yeah. Very funny. You also get the funny podcast thing where he's looking for a religious podcast that justifies murder, or him buying a gun. She's like, "I have to show you this legally before you can buy this."
And I love that that's funny. I love that I love that the podcast he does find as a Christian guy going, "Yeah, murder's totally fine," is Bill Burr.
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
Yeah,
and I love that bingo that he turns it off.
Yeah.
I feel like I interrupted you.
Oh, I was just gonna say, and that all culminates in like the last episode, being the fact that NoHo Hank has Sally and son. Bill Hader is on his way to NoHo Hank because NoHo Hank has notified him that. NoHo Hank notifies the Raven that, hey, Berkman's on his way.
Second half of this season, by the way,
Yeah.
the NoHo Hank fits out of control.
Yeah.
Go on.
And basically, you mentioned it, the bloody bloodbath. I love that Fuchs protects the grandson. Like I said, I go, as soon as he heard there's a grandson in the mix, I for sure, that his whole idea, kind of changed. And like that nobody makes it out basically besides him and Sally or whatever. And then Berkman's been spending this whole episode gearing up to get here, buying a shitload of guns just for him to show up and for Fuchs to give him his son and then run off into the darkness. And then, again, like these are like this last episode honestly is phenomenal. I love that stuff. I love that NoHo Hank dies, and that's the one thing I didn't want to happen this season. And yet I'm fine with it. That's like another way that I put it is like there's so much of this season that has been like precisely what I didn't want, and yet I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Fuchs out of control. That's my favorite. But from here, even you get the thing where Berkman goes and Kusnow shoots him in the head and he dies.
Yeah, and I love this scene.
Yeah.
Again, very funny. It starts with Kusnow locked in that room. He's looking at his gun.
Kill himself.
And his agent being like, I'm going to go get a new Vitamix, and I'll be right back. But hey, buddy, remember, you're not alone. And he turns and picks up a suitcase to skip town on him. And then, I love it. It's so perfect and so funny. Him shooting him and Barry going, oh, wow, and then getting shot in the head.
Yeah.
And then I love that shot. I saw someone else point this out. It backs out, and it's just framed in a way you've never seen this part of the house before, and it looks like a stage. And it's just like really flat, and it looks like the two of them are sitting on a stage, and then the way it transitions into Sally's play is just that audience clapping over that shot of Barry and Kusnow.
Yeah. And then, the Sally and son, I think, is the most tasteful way they could have ended this bit because for the sake of this episode, finally the son matters, in my opinion.
Yeah.
For the Fuchs bit, and then for the ending here, where you're left with this, like, Sally has already, like, at one point broken and told her son, like, hey, your dad is a murderer. You should take money to murder people, and I have also murdered somebody. We're not good people. And then for the show to end on him watching this odd, like, for lack of a better way of putting it, like this like American Sniper version of his life, you know, where he's a hero.
Someone point this out. So fucking sick of Bill Hader to release this episode that ends with like, oh yeah, Barry, this fucking monster, got away with it all because he was part of the U.S. military.
Yeah.
The day before Memorial Day.
Yeah. And I also love him being like, hey, Mom, I'm going to go stay the night with so-and-so or whatever. And she's like, yeah, that's great. And he's like, love you, Mom. She's like, yeah, whatever. And then she's like, oh, wait, John, it was good, wasn't it? It was really good, yeah?
Yeah, like, definitely she, like, and then, she rejects that guy for a date. And, like, just, like, you feel like she's in a better place and she's doing well. But also, like, she doesn't say I love you back to her son. And she's, like, so in love with those flowers that she has with herself in the passenger seat. It's like, she's still got some shit to work out. I love that she's not just, like, perfect now.
Her, Barry, and Kusnow are like the three worst for sure in the show, and oddly, like Fuchs and NoHo Hank are like the two that kind of have like redeemable qualities.
Yeah.
The actual criminals, and so like I said, I genuinely think season 4 is super strong, but it's almost like a perfect example of not really, in my opinion, being given what you wanted, but that not being a bad thing. It kind of has that, like, the closest thing I can compare it to is like almost like what like season 3 of Twin Peaks is to like the original Twin Peaks kind of a thing. Like,
okay, yeah.
There's quite a bit of a shift here. There's quite a bit of a shift from like a guy who's in an acting class to like 8 years later now he's a guy on the run in the middle of the desert with like his wife and like the acting teacher who's ran away to like whatever he says, like Thailand for 8 years, and now NoHo Hank is a billionaire, like runs a company. Like it's like such a huge leap from like the earnest beginnings of the show, and you just drop a lot of things that are iconic for the show, right? Like the theme song's gone, like you said, the way they treat violence is different, like the whole show is kind of different.
Should have brought the theme song back for the last episode.
Yeah,
should have done it.
Yeah. So anyways, great.
Yeah, and I think you're right. It's a huge shift, And it's so strange because it's like, yeah, this doesn't... Like, 3 feels like such a big shift from 2.
Yeah.
And 4 feels like such a big shift from 3.
Uh-huh.
But, like, I don't know. They don't feel like they are, but they feel like... I don't know. I feel like it works, and also it's, like, it's a pretty dramatic change, but it feels earned, if that makes any sense. And, yeah, I just love Barry. I think... Hot take. I think Barry might be my favorite show.
Okay.
It's probably going to change the next time I find a show that I really like. That'll be my favorite show.
Yeah. And it's going to be Breaking who?
Breaking what?
Yeah.
Bear who? BoJack Whatman?
Yeah.
Another joke? What were my closing thoughts on Barry? Good. Can't wait for more time to pass, and I can really I'm sure I'm just gonna like the last season more and more with time. Shout out to them shooting the rocket at the mansion, very Looney Tunes, very funny. And good job everyone. Good job Chris. Good job Cooper.
So me talking about it and you seeing it, 2 different things?
yeah, no, that's it exactly. So funny. I'm just saying, I feel like I can get them out and get them to a dinner before it happens. It's so funny.
Yeah, well, guess what? That's that, Mattress Man. If you need more soup, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, or go to our website, eatingsoupalone.com. And until next time,